And I want to start moving on to the period just preceding the negotiations. And so I think my first question about this period is when did you return to South Africa and what was it like returning home after spending so much of your adult life in exile?
Yeah, yeah. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. We couldn't believe. Well, I had two different feelings. One, we were becoming extremely successful in activities that we had just at the time of the 1989 when, and then 1990 when Madiba was released. Uh, and the ANC was unbanned. It was when we became extremely successful and powerful. So, in part, we wanted to continue that effort. So unbanning was, this the ceasefire, the unbanning, all of those activities were not things we appreciated at that point in time. But at the same time, coming home and interacting with people at home gave us a new perspective. It was incredible. It was an incredible experience, and the issue then was establishing the ANC in its legal format and structure. And so that's so when we came back, the big issue was then what did we then do in terms of changing our course of our activities, and what would we then do? And for me, it was getting involved in CODESA. I was asked to be part of some delegations, and we started the process in 1991 and got involved in some of the early negotiations. Initially, it was with under the auspices of the Transvaal Indian Congress. So we got involved immediately in the negotiations process.
And before we get right into the negotiation process, I just have a couple of questions about the setting up of the ANC after the end of after the unbanning. So, how did you manage to so quickly set up the ANC as a legal organization, considering the fact that between 1990 and 1994 you went from not existing to being the governing party at the after the 27th of April 1994.
By 1991, I was asked to. I was recruited into the ANC's regional structure. Back then, it wasn't Gauteng. It was called the PWV, or Pretoria Witwatersrand Vereniging Region, and I was a regional organizer. And my responsibility was then to establish ANC branches in the different communities. So we would then go into each of the areas, identify the ANC people, uh, and then organize them into structures, then put them into branches. I think we it was arising out of the 1991 ANC conference, the first conference of the ANC. The importance was to establish the ANC as a legal structure which had membership. So there's a big push to gain membership. And at that point in time, membership cost all of 12 Rand. Uh, and so the big change in the ANC was then recruiting people who wanted to join the ANC rather than people recruiting people who had particular political beliefs. So yes, everybody at that time was talking the ANC language. It was very popular and so on, but we didn't recruit as we did in the underground. We recruited by way of membership, buying of membership, and the big issue was then to gain as many branches in as many communities as possible, establish the regional structures legally, and then the national structures, and to go into elections on that basis. So you needed a branch, a footwork, a network of branches of the ANC as legal structures, and that became an imperative, yes.
And do you think that the push to get as many members to join the ANC as quickly as possible left open the door for opportunists who could see that being a part of the new governing party might be a good thing.
Absolutely. I think we before it's something I understood much later was that before the capture of the state took place, there was a capture of ANC branches that took place. And so capture of the state was made possible by people operating within ANC structures. And opportunists, people who saw great opportunity by the ANC and understood that it would become a governing party, sort of embedded themselves in it only because it gave them levers or access to power. Initially, it was political access to opinion makers and power, and later, of course, it then matured into also access into decision making, which would lead to economic value. Uh, but what took place in various communities, including mine, was the fact that our branches were hijacked and were captured by people who didn't share our political views, people who knew very little of the Freedom Charter, what our beliefs were, what our value systems were. And so that, in a sense, opening up membership did open the door. And a practice we saw then, which has become very much prevalent in recent years and understood for all its sins, was that those who wanted to be elected would effectively buy membership cards for people and dish them out and allow them to vote in a particular way. And that's how they rose to particular levels of power. So yes, it had its benefits, but it had its serious disadvantages and impact on the ANC, the country, and what happened to governance later. So yes, how the branches were established were an important aspect of our country's history, which hopefully will get re-examined at some point or examined at some point and properly understood for what it was.